What are you having for tea this evening? What's your tea time meal? Your full English, if you like. What have you had for tea this evening, or what are you going to have for tea this evening? 080032133. And I'll tell you why. Because there's a new exhibition which is opening in the capital, which explores the evolving food cultures within the British Muslim community. Once rarely available in halal form, this traditionally British dish has increasingly become a staple in Muslim households, halal cafes and fusion menus across the UK. And this project captures how food has become a powerful medium of cultural expression, connection and adaptation within a multicultural society. We've got to eat to live, but also we eat to connect with each other. Yes, it's a cultural expression. It's been created, this exhibition, by community organiser, filmmaker and co-founder of Mile End Community Project, Nurull Islam, who joins me on the programme now. Nurull, good evening. How are you? You all right?
Hi, good evening, Dotun. Thank you very much for inviting me here today to talk about the full English.
Yeah, well, absolutely. What was your full English? What have you had for tea today?
You know what? I haven't. I'm kind of down onto the one meal a day, so my meal's going to be straight after this.
Great. And what will you be having?
You know what? It's going to be roast chicken today. Not a Sunday roast, but it's going to be roast chicken.
Well, okay. So roast chicken is currently in the lead for the nation's favourite tea time meal, just because of you. So it's roast chicken, roast chicken.
Well, it is Sunday, so I suppose.
Well, but roast chicken is, just like it says on the tin, a cultural expression, isn't it? It's part of our staple diet now. There's something very British about the way we do our roast, in any case, on a Sunday, but chicken also, I'd have thought.
Well, it's definitely, and it's probably one of the reasons why I started the Full English Project, is to kind of explore this more. And again, like the Sunday roast, traditionally, definitely in my household, it wasn't, anything known. But now you've got grandparents and parents who'd had to learn how to cook a traditional kind of roast chicken, a Sunday roast, because now that's the staple on a Sunday. And that's one of the portraits that features in the exhibition.
What has the roast chicken meal, for example, replaced within the Muslim community in Britain? What were you having at tea time, maybe the previous generation, that you're not having anymore now, or because of the younger generation have got the palates of any old English kids, British kids? What have you replaced? What has been replaced by the chicken?
Yeah, so obviously I'm from I have Bangladeshi heritage, so traditionally would have a lot of kind of curry dishes basically. And growing up back in the 80s and the 90s, it was pretty much Asian dishes for like breakfast, lunch and dinner. And the only kind of, I suppose, non-Asian dish we'd have is when we go to school. And obviously that's changed definitely over the last 20 years. But during my time, it would definitely be a curry, or an Asian dish on a Sunday. To be honest with you, throughout the whole week, that's what it would have been. But now, definitely in families or younger generations, it'd definitely probably be a Sunday roast today, or it would be an international cuisine. And you've got younger generations probably cooking lesser and fewer South Asian dishes during the week and cooking probably more traditional British dishes, or maybe a cuisine from another country.
Isn't this a fascinating cultural moment, though? Because you were talking about my generation when you describe how we ate what our parents ate. We ate what they brought over, apart from school times. That's the only time that we got to eat bangers and mash or sausages or whatever it was. Yeah.
Well, there's a story actually. If you go to the Full English exhibition, there's a collection of stories again from people during that time. And one of the stories, the lady, she's actually talking about her experience of eating frazzles. For those of you who know, the bacon flavored kind of crisps. And so in that story, she's talking about her brother, how he was looking forward to when he'd fall ill because he'd get chips. Because that was the closest kind of school meals that he'd have, and his mum would cook him chips. But the Full English, again, is that era during that time where, like when we were going to school, for example, we didn't have like the fancy kitchens now, so we'd be going to school smelling of, whatever was being cooked at home. There's this really nice story called the Sea of Sausages, where halal wasn't as probably known, especially in the schools and stuff, but they were being served to the Muslim kids, and they'd be like, I'm not going to give the story where you'll have to listen to it, but the kids would just dash it underneath the table, for the sausages to kind of join and create this sea of sausages, basically, from all the Muslim kids. But it's exploring how traditional British dishes and international cuisine have found their way into Muslim households. And like I said, you've got the grandparents cooking roast dinners on a Sunday who'd had to kind of learn those kind of dishes, and you've got the young generations maybe cooking shepherd's pie or like the full English, for example. The reason why it's called that, we wouldn't even say Muslims, from my community and my experience, we wouldn't even say the word sausage or even pig. We'd have to spell it out because otherwise you'd get sin for it or something. It was a taboo, basically. You've got some members of the Muslim community who may still not have sausage just because growing up for them it was this kind of sausage wasn't something that they were allowed to eat, so they still won't eat it now. But now you can go into any shop in Tower Hamlets, a chicken and chip shop even, and they'll still be selling full English throughout the whole day. You've got more businessmen who, for example, have taken on board fast food outlets like the local Chinese that we used to go to. It used to serve everything in there, but we could only have chips. But now, where it's been taken over by Muslim businessmen, you could have everything in there, for example. So it's a massive change and shift in how the British Muslim community have adapted their food and dishes at home and on the high streets.
Yeah, first of all, I thought you called it the full English because there was that sketch in Goodness Gracious Me, the most successful Asian, British Asian sitcom probably ever still today.
I remember that.
And they called it a full Indian there. That was the irony, wasn't it? They went out for a full Indian. What would the full Indian be today? I imagine a full Indian would be a mix of both, the English cuisine, the Muslim cuisine, and perhaps cuisine from elsewhere.
Definitely. So again, in the exhibition, and I should definitely acknowledge the award-winning photographer Rahan Jamil, who's a social documentary photographer who's part of this, who captured these beautiful and stunning portraits. And basically, the full English, again, if you go to the cafes, now you've got a lot more cafes in the East End owned by like Muslim entrepreneurs or businessmen and women. And so they'll serve you a traditional English breakfast, or you've got the Asian one, which may be paratha with omelette. It would be like spicy beans, masala beans. So you can go into it. There's so many. There's a lovely cafe that actually was catering for an event called Almari over at Poplar. Again, if you go into it, you see just like a wide range of dishes alongside all the traditional kind of British dishes as well.
This is history. We are living through historical times, culturally and otherwise. And well, it always helps to have a meal to go with it, to landscape our cultural times. I think you're on to a winner. Just remind us, how can we find out more about the exhibition? If we don't live in the capital, can we watch it or view it online or otherwise?
Well, currently, I'd advise everybody to go down to the Poplar Union. It's an amazing space in Tower Hamlets.
Yeah, but if you're up in Newcastle listening to this, or in Cumbria, or in Lancashire, or Yorkshire, or even in Birmingham, you're like, why do we have to travel that far? Can't we see it online?
You can see it online. I was hoping to kind of push Poplar Union because they've been amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
But you can go to Nurull Islam. That's Nurull Islam.com, where the exhibition is there. But if you are in London and if you are in Tower Hamlets, then there is the Power of Food Festival that is taking place. It's a 10-day festival in Tower Hamlets. They've got about 40 events that are celebrating all things to do with food. And the ecosystems around it and sustainability. So it's a fantastic festival. But yeah, the full English it's a great way to break down barriers. It's an era that hasn't been documented. And the stories and the histories around it is quite funny for those who may not be familiar with how or the transition for the British Muslims in terms of food. And when you hear the stories, it can make you chuckle, but there are some really important stories that have been told how we had to navigate around the food barriers growing up back in that time.
Yeah, amazing. And I wish you all the best of it. We're going to have a lot of fun with this tonight, I think, Nurull.